Namaste. Good morning. Hello, friends. I'm going to check the time. Excuse me. 4:10. I'm letting that sink in to my mind because I often forget how long I've been talking for. If I talk freely, I will usually talk for about 40 minutes. If I answer questions or talk about comments, then it can go on, and there needs to be a time to cut off. So, welcome here to my kuti this morning at the beginning of the week. The beginning of the week for most people in the world today being Monday. And this is early Monday morning. My week doesn't begin particularly on any day. As monks, our weeks, our months even, are guided more by the lunar calendar, here in Asian countries at least, but also in the West. These observances of full moon, new moon and the quarter moons between are observed as Uposatha days, like Buddhist Sabbaths, Buddhist holy days, and marker points in our annual schedule. This is the midway point, or a little further on now, more than halfway through, the Vasa, which is the period of time usually between the full moon of July and the full moon of October, marking the monsoon season here in India, where the Buddha comes from and first was born, became enlightened, and first taught, and then trained his Sangha of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis in the Vinaya, our strict code of conduct, which to this day, 2566 or possibly 67, I'm not sure when the date of that changes. It seems to change from country to country, but a long time ago, remained unchanged. That is that Vinaya, that body of rules, which are training. They are a guide to our training more than rules, because they are not restrictive, only in that they guide us and support our main our main rules of sila, moral virtue, that also lay Buddhists follow similarly to this day, of no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, lying, and no intoxicants. And in traditional Buddhist countries, many lay people also take, that's the 5 precepts, many people also take the 8 precepts on these Uposatha days, which means they abstain from sexual activity altogether, so they are celibate for the day, they refrain from eating after noon, they refrain from entertainment and beautification and comfortable and luxurious furniture. So those additional rules, like our supportive our 227 bhikkhu rules and 311 bhikkhuni rules, are supportive to those main moral precepts. So we live by a very strict code of conduct. And my daily schedule, it's slightly different today because I'm just fitting in this video at this time, whereas often I would do this in the afternoon. It doesn't matter either way, because my day begins at 3 a.m. when I wake up. I'm just going to quickly summarize my daily schedule. Actually, because one of the comments I've received that it's quite rare. I don't get many comments of this nature. I can count on one hand the comments of this nature I've had in the year that I've been making these videos. Just about a year, because I started in the last Vasa. The comment is that why are you always on YouTube rather than practicing and I'll read the comment because I don't want to misquote, if I can find it. Oh, it's there. Why are you on YouTube all the time? You should be doing your practice and disconnecting. Okay, well, disconnecting is quite easy. These phones are pretty much disconnected. If it's not because of my location and having no internet, it's because I have it turned off, or it's always on silent mode, or it's on airplane mode, because I have no need to be in contact with anyone, and I have no social media. The only contact I have is this channel via YouTube, which I contribute to, and it takes a very little time. It's a very small part of my day. So for the benefit of this, I won't say subscriber, although I would encourage him to subscribe, to maybe watch some of these videos, but more importantly, what this channel is based on. If I'd had a lot of comments of that nature when I first began contributing to this channel a year ago, I would have probably stopped quite quickly, because something would have told me that this isn't the right thing to do. Whether that was correct or whether that was not, in hindsight probably not, then that's by the by. I wouldn't have had the encouragement to continue, and I won't say interrupting my day, because it doesn't really interrupt my day, as the subscriber or non-subscriber suggests, but I wouldn't have had the inclination to continue putting in the little effort that there is required to just sit and talk for a moment or two to you, the subscribers. And to you, subscribers who genuinely appreciate the content on this channel, which is me just sharing my experience as a Buddhist monk in this practice and in this life as a Buddhist monk living in different countries in Asia with you, the subscribers, for the benefit of your own practice. The feedback I get, the comments, the wonderful comments, kind words of encouragement are what have made me continue with this, and I will call it practice of sharing my experience with you. It is part of my practice. I am sharing the Dharma. I'm not teaching, so it needn't be absolutely correct, right or wrong, but to people whom are new to Buddhism, who have no experience of meditation, and also to people whom are from cultures within Buddhism, Buddhist countries, and who have been born into it, grown up with it, and have an understanding of it. Some lay people, more so technically speaking, scripturally speaking, than me, very probably, because they may have many more years experience in Buddhism, the study of, and Buddhist practice than myself. Albeit my experience has been concertinaed up and very concentrated into a short period of since 2000, strictly under 10 years now, but getting close to that. And in order to fit a lot in to a relatively short amount of time, in the context of my overall life, I've given up a lot of other things that one would normally be doing at my age. I am retired. I have no work that I have to do. So I was able to dedicate my life to the understanding of the Buddha's teachings and the practice of what he said to understand for myself what enlightenment is, what it was the Buddha taught us, how to become free from suffering in this lifetime. And it is only that I am sharing with you out of my compassion for all beings, that he didn't say, monks, nuns, go off to a cave now and disappear. That would be so nice to do. I can do that. I do have the wherewithal, the ability to disappear, go to a forest, go to a cave, and never speak to anyone again, and just sit in samadhi. But that would be in breach of our Vinaya, our rules. We, each day, rely on lay people to keep us alive in these bodies, to support us with food. And in return, we support lay people spiritually, if I can use that word, but I use it loosely, but with advice on life matters and matters of dharma. Now, from my point of view, life matters are coming from a lifetime of, say, 40 plus years of experience, having been married, had families, had everything as a businessman in the West would have, and those experiences, and that change from householder life, going from the household life to homelessness, and I don't use the sense of the word loosely, I am a homeless nomadic monk, a samana, a wanderer of this planet, and you might say free, but that doesn't make one free. You still have to live. Now the Buddha put in place these rules that we can stay under a tree, in a cave, in a forest, out in the open air, or in a monastery, a community of monks. But wherever we stay, it has to be within a walking distance of a village, a community, a city, of lay people, lay Buddhists, who are willing to provide us with at least a little food. Just from each household, 1 spoon of rice into this pindabat, this bowl we carry, which is one of our only 8 requisites, to keep us alive. That contact doesn't need to be spoken. In fact, we are prohibited within those rules to have conversations, even to acknowledge by saying thank you, because that implies that it isn't a two-way balance. It implies that we owe for the food. We are actually giving the opportunity for people to give to us. And giving is one of the most fruitful things we can do for our own benefit as for the recipient. As you probably know, it is greater to give than to receive. So we are offering the opportunity for lay people just to support us for another 24 hours. And then we don't eat, as our precept, the 6th precept says, in the afternoon. So my day begins at 3 a.m, just to quickly sum that up, at which point I awake and I meditate until 6 a.m. At 6 a.m, if I'm in a monastery, I would normally go to the little temple or the big temple, depending on the kind of monastery I am in, where there would be puja. It's very often much earlier than that. It could be any time between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So I like to go at 6 a.m. here because it's good that I can meditate for 3 hours in the morning until 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. Little interruption today because I'm doing this, but that's okay. It's flexible. The puja is a short puja in the morning for no more than about half an hour, and at 6:30 I go on pindapat, which is alms round. Now wherever I am in the world, I go bare feet, walking with this bowl and this robe over both shoulders into the village in the hopes that lay people will come out of their houses and put some food in my bowl. This usually takes about an hour and a half, maybe 2. Can be longer depending on where you are. Whether you come back with some food or you don't, it doesn't matter. And anything we receive is gratefully received. And that is the food we have to eat for the rest of the day. But if we're living in a monastery or staying in a monastery, as I am for this 3 months rains retreat, then there will be food provided by the kitchen there, which is usually run, organised and supplied by lay people, upasakas, upasikas. They are the Pali terms for lay men and lay women. And in Thailand, in some monasteries, they also have mechis, whom are nuns, whom are also very happily responsible for running that side of things, providing all the food for the monks. But that's not always the case, I must stress, and certainly not the way it works in the West, in Western countries. And at 6:30, I set off on this alms round, returning, let's say, by 7 o'clock, 7:30, but no later than 9 a.m. Then, if I'm on my own, I would then, and if I'm in even in a monastery in Thailand, then you would have the meal. The lay people come to the monastery, come to the temple. You may give them blessings, anumodana, which is rejoicing in their gratitude for having been able to give, and you're rejoicing in your gratitude for having been able to receive. A mutually beneficial appreciation of what has gone on this morning. They have supplied and provided requisites of food or medicine and anything else that's in need to this community of monks for them to survive another day and continue their practice. This is accepted, and a short chant, a blessing, is given to the lay people. Sometimes also a dharma talk at this time, which will probably be longer than this dharma talk or this talk I'm giving now. So the senior monk or a monk designated by him will give that talk at that time in the morning, much like I do each day, either in the morning or in the afternoon, and it takes no more than an hour, because I try to keep the speaking that I do on here to 40 minutes. Certainly try to keep it under an hour. Sometimes it might go over 50 minutes. That is, however, as long as it takes. There's no need for me to do anything else except turn the recording off and press send. It goes to YouTube. Everything else is done automatically on its own. I don't have to do any editing or any of this mucking around. There's no studio. This is just a cheap mobile phone and a radio mic, just to dispense with the difficulties I was having with wires. So simply, that's all the videoing aspect entails. Now, if you perceive that from a comment as me being on YouTube all of the time, this is the way YouTube put it out. That has nothing to do with me either. But it's also driven largely by the response of people's comments being positive and liking the videos, that they will direct it in certain directions. One has heard this word about algorithms and things, but I don't need to understand any of that or question it, or I'm even really interested in how it works. All I'm interested in and very happy to receive are the comments, both of critical and constructive nature, positive and negative, happy and sad, and also questions that I can certainly give my opinion and the benefit of my experience on, if not specific answers to. So my day continuing with this, I would eat then, and usually do here, because there's a kitchen, and the monks that are staying here, well, the trainee, the novices, the samaneras, eat a bit later in the day, in the morning. They like to eat at about 11, 11:30, as close to 12 as possible to make the afternoon for them shorter. I eat at 11 o'clock, not necessarily with them, unless there's a guest staying. I come and eat alone in my kuti, because they eat a slightly different way to the way I do things. So I go at about 11 o'clock to get my food from the sala, well, it's just a shed, which is a bit of kitchen area and a sitting and eating area, in my bowl. Anything I've been given on alms round, I've already dropped off at the kitchen in the morning. And because in India you might get offered some raw foods, some vegetables and things that we cannot eat and we cannot cook as monks. In order to maintain our dependency on lay people, there is also this rule. So anything like that, I just put it in the kitchen, or even things that are ready and available to eat, I'll put in the kitchen. Unless there's a nice cold drink in there, like a Coca-Cola or something, and it's been offered, so I'm allowed to keep that, and I'll have that and possibly enjoy it in the morning even before I have the meal. But normally we'd eat then, when we've returned from alms round after the blessing for the lay people. And then after washing our bowl, leaving it outside in the sun to dry, the eating takes no more than half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. Now that's the only part of the day occupied by consuming food. And then washing up after the food takes less than 5 minutes to wash my bowl, rinse it and put it in the sun to dry. This, is a very short part of any person's day concerning food. Okay, the going to get it, the walk, is a bit longer, but that is also practice. We walk with bare feet a long way, mindfully, in the dark, into town, coming back in the light, because we set off just before dawn, which is when you can see, dawn is officially when you can, in monk world, when you can see the lines in your hand in natural light. Not a bright moon or street lights, but natural light with the sun coming over the horizon. This signifies dawn. So it's 20 minutes before sunrise, official sunrise, is when we set off into town, or the earliest we can be at a person's house to receive food. It's in our rules, supportive of those main precepts that I spoke about. I have the meal, wash the bowl, and that's food finished for the next 24 hours. No thoughts need come into my mind about eating, preparing food for lunch, preparing food because this is of course even earlier than some people's breakfast times. You could call it brunch, as they do in the West. It's between breakfast and lunch, but that's the earliest, that's about the time we eat, about 9 at the earliest really, 10 o'clock. No, sorry, 9, 10 o'clock at the latest, and then the meal is finished. Here, and some monasteries a bit later, 11, because some monasteries, communities, if you live in a community, they will have breakfast also, because we can eat as much as we like at any time during that period. But the tradition I've been trained in and practiced in, we just eat one meal. I eat one meal from this bowl, in this bowl only, not on my lid, my side dish here, just in the bowl, sweet, savoury, curries, vegetables, all mixed up, it doesn't matter, with the rice. I have it in one bowl. It keeps everything simple, and the simplicity of life is my goal as a monk in order to reduce suffering. So simplicity comes as a result of renunciation, giving up, disconnecting, as the non-subscriber commented, disconnecting from the world. Other than that, very important, connect with lay people to be fed each day and looked after in exchange for our support of those lay people, whom can come to the temples where there are, and monasteries and stupas and things throughout the countries that are Buddhist countries, and in non-Buddhist Buddhist countries where they may have meditation centres and these kinds of supportive structures for lay people. They can come at any time freely, which are available for them to benefit from also. After the meal, I am then free to practice meditation for the rest of the day. So after the meal, I like to practice walking meditation. Now, if it's before noon, when I've finished eating, I will probably walk either not into the same village, but into the countryside, or into, if I had a duty, something I needed to do in a town, like I had to go to some office for some particular reason, because I'm a foreigner, there's sometimes those kind of things, very rarely, but some responsibility you have to take care of, I would do it at that time, late morning, when everything's open, because things open later here in Asia, because they close again in the afternoon and then open late at night because of the heat of the day. I'd go into town if it was necessary, but that's quite rare. But just go for a walk I like to not rest straight after food. I think it's important to either practice walking meditation for an hour after eating, just up and down, walking meditation, or if necessary, go for a walk. So I will do that. So this takes me to about 12 o'clock. This is the sort of middle part of my day. And then I can sit in meditation until 3 p.m. So I have the opportunity to meditate for another 3 hours. So from 3 a.m. until 6 a.m. I can meditate for 3 hours. From 12 noon and until 3 p.m. I can meditate for another 3 hours. Then at 3 p.m. I can bathe. They call that here, it's having a shower, but they don't have showers. You have a bucket with some water in it and a little pail to chuck the water over you. This is bathing. And this doesn't take long, 20 minutes, half an hour or whatever. And also any robes I might need to get cleaned, I would then put in a bucket of water to just soak overnight. And possibly early in that morning after the mealtime, would have rinsed those and hung them to dry. So that's the end of my domestic duties, other than a little sweeping here and there, now and then, when either duty, if there's a time schedule in a community where you're staying, you would have a time, say, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon just for sweeping. Or if I'm living alone, I'm just going to sweep what I need to sweep in my immediate vicinity, because there's no need for me to interfere with anything else, and that takes a matter of 5 minutes, 10 at the most. So that can be at any time. So at 3, I bathe, and then usually it's called Nampana in Thailand, but I don't think they have a name for it. In Pali it's called Gilana Pachaya, which is really not correct, it's medicine or sustenance. But we have a hot sweet drink or a cold sweet drink. No milk products, that's food, but around this mid-afternoon time. It's just to give you a livener. You've had 3 hours of samadhi meditation. You haven't eaten for now, 4 to 6 hours. You have some nice, refreshing, sweet, cold drink I like to have if there's one available. Otherwise you might have some black tea with sugar. I don't normally have sugar. I drink black coffee or black tea. But at this time of the afternoon it's quite useful or good idea to have some sugar. It gives you a little bit more energy for the afternoon's practice. Then, and only then, normally I'll spend perhaps half an hour to 3/4 of an hour checking some comments that have come on the YouTube channel, the comments section, and checking my emails, which I don't get any emails other than really from some subscribers on this channel. I don't have any contacts or connection. I'm disconnected from the rest of the world, subscriber or non-subscriber, very disconnected. I'm sure if you're not a monk, maybe you are a monk who's put that comment, but if you're not a monk, even possibly if you are a monk, you have a lot more messages in a day than that. You see, I've had no messages so far in this daily schedule. I'm not missing them out. I would not have had any because it's not on. I'll turn it on at this time. I might then get a WhatsApp message, 1 or 2, but this would only be if there was an emergency back at home. Like my friend died, so I had a message from my sister, your friend died. She doesn't say please ring and not say anything, because that would be quite concerning for everyone, wouldn't it? You'd think, wow, what's happened? So she just says so-and-so died, boom. Call if you like. Very nice, very simple message. No beating around the bush, and that's the kind of only message I would get. That is the extent of my connection there through this means, phones, etc. I have no computer, no laptop, no them other things, tablet. I did have a little tablet for a while. I tried it for using it for the chanting books, reading it. Someone lent it to me, but it's too complicated. It does that screen. I find it easier on this little thing. And also you can't carry it around, can you? It's a silly thing to have for a monk. Although a wonderful thing if you're staying in one place, I'm sure. But we don't have entertainment, so So it's not much use. A phone is sufficient. You can make the print big to read it if you need to, and that's all you need, isn't it? That half an hour to, let's say, an hour at the very most, to just go through those comments and acknowledge them, reply to any questions if I can, or mention that I will talk about it in the next questions and answers video, and reply to any emails that I've received. That's as far as the two-way communication, and as very much as close as I ever get to in my life social media. Now, about 10, 15 years ago, I did have a Facebook account, which I closed in 2014. I think I started it in 2013, so about a year. And that was closed and deleted and gone back then. I've never had a social media account of anything of such since that time. You can call YouTube a social media thing, I suppose, and even WhatsApp, if you use it for those reasons, but I don't. WhatsApp is strictly for messages. No, none of this status stuff, none of this, even I don't have conversations unless it's about meeting someone, going to somebody, travelling, buses or whatever that's necessary to organise. And I don't talk on the telephone. Some people might think I'm rude, I don't answer the phone. It doesn't ring, so I'm not going to answer it. And then if it's a missed call, I'll send it's already typed, an automatic message back saying, sorry I missed your call, please message. Because I find that telephone conversations are not beneficial to my practice. They can go on for too long. So I restrict my telephone communication to one call I've been reminded recently it's not been every 2 weeks, it's got to more like 4 weeks, which caused some worry for my mother, because I usually have been good at remembering to call her every 2 weeks. Again, that is the extent of my connection with the outside world as far as this is concerned. Albeit I have a very big connection with all of you wonderful upasakas, upasikas, and non-Buddhist practitioners and non-practitioners of Buddhism at all, whom are just interested, and Christians whom are just interested in and Muslims, interested in hearing this experience of a Buddhist monk here living in India, living in Thailand, and soon to be somewhere else. This is a wonderful and advantageous interaction with noble friends, Kalyana Mita we call them, beautiful friendships, speaking only of Dharma, of nothing else. We have nothing else in common. Maybe we do, but this we don't go into. Those of you that I communicate to regularly by email on a personal level, because you can please email me about any of your personal inquiries and things you'd like to discuss, and if it's appropriate, I will always respond. If it's not, I'll still respond, but I'll say this isn't something I would talk about, because I only talk about what you can ask any Buddhist monk, the Dharma. Anything else, politics, generally about religion, about life that isn't appropriate to Dharma. So for instance, if you were having a trouble with your car engine or the weather or playing computer games, I'm not interested. I'm interested in you, but not what you're doing necessarily, unless it's practice related. This wasn't what I was going to look at questions and answers today, so that I didn't get behind, but it's turned into a talk, hasn't it? But I think it's an important talk, because it's based on a comment, which is an important comment. As I don't get very many of those comments about why are you on YouTube, I think it's very important to address that subject periodically, also to remind myself. Now, other people have replied already to that comment on my behalf with the very justifiable reasons as to why monks give Dharma talks, whatever format that may be in. Now, I live completely here alone, so I have no other Dharma talks to give, although a couple of people now have visited me here, and I've spent a very productive and interesting and useful afternoon. They've come in the afternoon after mealtime, spent the whole afternoon, and including staying on until the evening puja, just to sit and talk, not necessarily practice and meditate, although whilst I went to bathe, this upasaka went to practice walking meditation and also brought me nampana, my cold fizzy sweet drink, and then we were able to just talk about the Dharma. He could ask me questions about his meditation practice, and on a one-to-one level it was very productive and useful, I hope, for him, but it certainly was also for me. Other than that, I have no communication, talking, other than this. So after finishing the comments and replying to emails, which let's say takes, I usually, perhaps whilst I'm having nampana, will begin that, you see, so it's combining having my cold drink and relaxing in an informal way with a little talking, like tea with a monk, if you like, but to just the written questions and comments. Maybe 4 o'clock, 4:30 by then, having bathed and got ready for the evening's practice, I will then sit down over there, but under the tree, or in here's usually in the mornings, or in the temple, depending on the weather, and either talk on here, make the video, or answer questions that I've received and comments, reply to comments, live, not live, but recorded with the camera on this phone. And that takes 40 minutes to an hour out of my day. So as you see there, that's it then. You press send and it gets uploaded, it's done, it's finished. So answering the comments, the emails, and making the video, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, maximum, very maximum 2 hours. Only if I've spent a little bit too long talking about the Dharma, which isn't a bad thing. This is not unskillful behaviour. It is not scrolling through social media, YouTube. It's not being on YouTube all of the time. If YouTube put me on YouTube all of the time, or it seems that way, that's not me. I do, in the morning, at 6 a.m, from 6:30 until 6:30, also for the benefit of others, because it makes no difference to me whether it's on YouTube or not. Press live on the YouTube thing, that's live. I don't have to do anything other than that. It does it automatically. And then after I finish making the video, this is continuing with my daily schedule here. After making that short video, or that video, I then am able to turn the phone off at that point. Then I can sit and practice, or sit meditation, or practice walking meditation until 6 o'clock, when I go to the temple, or just recently I've decided I'm going to do the evening and the morning puja, if possible, weather permitting, outside. That's another talk. I'll talk about that maybe separately, but why, the reasonings behind that. But it's rather nice to be with nature, chanting in an external environment rather than an enclosed temple, as I'm alone. Because I've been going to the temple, and although the Samaneras are here, they generally don't come to the evening and morning puja. So I'm there alone, so I should enjoy nature and share that experience with you, I think, for this practice. Because, not wanting to get into the whole subject of that, this isn't worshipping, this isn't praying. We don't have to go to church, we don't have to go to the temple. This practice can be done anywhere, and under a tree in the shade of nature is the perfect environment. More so than a concrete built building with a plastic Buddha statue covered in flowers. That's unnecessary. It's nice, but it's not necessary. As the lighting of incense and candles is beautiful and nice, and it's a way of paying homage to the Buddha, the Dharma and Sangha, it isn't necessary and not always practical when you're outside. But what is necessary is reminding ourselves of the teachings of the Buddha, and what better way to do that is through chanting, which is not praying, it is the words of the Buddha. Some of it, yes, homage to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, reminding ourselves of the 9 qualities of the Buddha, the qualities of the Dharma itself, the teachings of the Buddha, and the qualities of the Sangha, those bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who have continued in this Buddha's lineage throughout this Buddha sasana, the Buddhist religion, the Buddhist faith, confidence in those teachings over these millennia to keep it alive and thriving today. Not because of belief, not because of worship, but because of experience, their own experience in liberation, becoming free from suffering in this lifetime. And the many arahants that precede us throughout those millennia to demonstrate the availability of this to each and every one of us, that we can become enlightened here and now in this lifetime, to become free from suffering in this lifetime, and attain to Nibbana. So, puja, this evening chanting at 6 p.m. takes probably a little longer, 40 minutes, to maybe a maximum of an hour, but around 40 minutes usually. And then after which I'm then free again. I will, usually at that time, listen to a Dharma talk, which would be on YouTube, but usually I download this or have it available, so I don't need to be online. I'm fortunate that in India it's very cheap and it's been already paid for me. I have YouTube Premium, so there's no adverts on my YouTube. I've never seen a YouTube advert. If you get adverts, I apologise. That's nothing to do with me. They're turned off throughout my videos. If they happen before and afterwards, that's out of my jurisdiction. I can't do much about what goes on the rest of YouTube, but within my videos they should be no longer there. It took some time to work it out, but they're turned off now, so there's no revenue generated as a result of them, and I don't want them to interrupt guided meditations, pujas, or me talking, not because it's me talking, but if I'm not experiencing adverts, why should you? So for these talks at least, you can be advert free. So I don't get adverts, so I'm not bombarded with inappropriate material or temptation, you could call it, or wasting time. I'll listen to a Dharma talk from one of my teachers in this lineage, in this same training as mine, and maybe I might even listen to 2, and they're usually 40 minutes. So, I could spend perhaps an evening listening to, or one Dharma talk and one questions and answers talk, something like that. To still be in contact with my teachers. This is very important. Kalyana Mita is the most important thing, noble friendships, and that includes Acharya, Pugala, our respected teachers. I was going to say in this business, but you know what I mean, in this Sangha. I need a teacher. I am a new monk. So I've been a monk for 3 years, but that's a very new monk in the scheme of things. My teachers have been monks for upwards of 10 years minimum. Well, my teachers are in the range of sort of 15 to 40, 50 vasas. That's these rains retreats, how we mark the years of being a monk. That's how long they've been monks for. Just doing this routine I'm recounting to you now. Because this routine I'm recounting to you now is not my routine. It's all monks throughout monasteries and the world's routine, or what they aspire to. So after the evening puja, maybe some Dharma, listening to a Dharma talk, as I don't have a real teacher to sit and listen to, whom would normally go late into the night talking at this time, if you're staying and living with him. And I've done that also before, and still do from time to time. Say this takes me till about 9. Probably not quite that late, but there's often something I need to do, maybe fix something, or there's always some little chore, interruption or whatever, maybe one call or something I had to return. At 9 o'clock, I'm then free to meditate until 12 o'clock, midnight. Now, I don't always do that. I sometimes get too tired because I've had no rest in the afternoon, usually. Only if I was unwell. So from 9 until midnight, I can then meditate. I would say I normally fall asleep at around 11, half 10, 11. So I usually meditate for an hour and a half, but I try to meditate until midnight. I don't fall asleep, I just feel that the meditation's not going, the samadhi becomes weaker through tiredness at that time. So I've meditated for 3 hours, 3 till 6 in the morning, from 9 till 12 in the morning, and then from the afternoons, walking meditation, dharma talks, walking meditation, yes, some more meditation in the afternoon I didn't include in there, but that's not so formally structured because it depends on what's happening with weather and the day and where I am, duties and such like. Short time to make this video that I'm doing a little earlier today, freeing me up this afternoon for more meditation. But then this additional 3 hours in the afternoon, my rigid structure is 3, 6, 9. 3 3-hour sessions. The third session usually being only 1.5 to 2 till 11 o'clock. So that's 6 to 9 hours meditation every day versus an hour, maybe 2 at the very most, if you include replying to comments and emails of any involvement with YouTube. The live puja in the morning and the evening does mean, yes, I'm on YouTube for those times too, but that's not me. That's just the camera recording what's going on in the temple or wherever I'm chanting. It requires no input other than for me to push the button on, push the button off, and then push the button send, or whatever it is, upload. Done. I hope that answers your question, subscriber or non-subscriber. I hope you can perhaps subscribe and see from the comments and kind of questions that I receive. I don't have the comments or questions. It's a thing you can turn off bad ones. I don't know how to explain it. I think it works. I don't turn the bad ones off, put it that way. They are naked. If you make a comment, I will see it. Unless it's so terrible that YouTube wouldn't publish it, they would still send it to me privately. And I must say, I don't want to provoke this, but there haven't been those kind of comments. Otherwise I would know. It wouldn't matter, because I wouldn't have to necessarily look, but I would know. This, again, is something that I check at that time, that designated time only. When I'm checking it just comes up with the comments, a notice. I have no notifications on this phone. I have no bleeps, flashes, anything like that's all turned off. In fact, anything connecting me with the outside world is turned off, unless it needs to be turned on. For instance, there was a time during COVID when we had to turn on this one particular thing, when you were travelling in India, which I still used to turn off when it wasn't, in my opinion, necessary for it to be on. So I reduce and have very little requirement for any data other than for this, which does need quite a lot of data. But you, very kindly, as subscribers and supporters, provide me with a very little amount of money in terms... No, not a little amount, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Enough money to supply that data for providing this content. And that is very gratefully received as dana, and also supports my coffee habit, my non-disconnect or my non-renunciant thing of drinking coffee, which I have as part of my daily sustenance, really, because that isn't allowable. We can have all of the time. Of course, you don't have coffee all of the time, just only when necessary. But these kinds of things are provided by you, who very kindly support me. And it's for that reason and that encouragement that kindness of yours, that dana, your offerings, for no more than what I just basically need, these real basics. The most excessive thing is we're depending on the country, really. It's not expensive data here, so a little contribution from you goes a long way, but it is a requirement in order to do this. So it's that keeps me going and reinvigorates, encourages me in my responsibility to also share my experience of the Dharma with you, my loyal subscribers and supporters and Kalyana Mita, beautiful friends in the Dharma, brothers and sisters, upasikas and upasikas. So on that note, before I waffle on any further, I'll check the time to see how I did. Oh, yes, about 40 minutes, unless that was 10 past. Let me see. Oh, I can't get it to come on. Yes, dead on 40 minutes. So I wasn't looking. If I just talk, that's about the time. So subscriber or non-subscriber, I hope that helps explain why this English monk is on YouTube all of the time. Only if you put me on there all of the time, I'm on there all of the time, because really I'm not anywhere. I'm not even here, because this isn't my home. This is just somewhere I'm passing through. Like a thought in your mind, it arrives, it stays a while, it goes away. Like clouds in the sky, just passing by the moon. I'm like that, a transient nomadic monk, floating through the universe, or at least on this beautiful planet of ours, and currently in this area, in this part of the world, in Asia, in Southeast Asia, and soon to be somewhere else. I drift, I move from place to place with no real structure or plan, other than that same routine I've just described. At midnight, or whenever I feel necessary, 11 o'clock, 10:30, my day finishes. I go to sleep. Here, on this mat where I'm sitting now, no bed. My Sangati here is my pillow. Nothing moves. This bowl isn't strategically placed for videos, that's where it lives. It keeps my life simple. Everything I own is within reach. My yam has my passport in there and it's hung up there. I keep things hung up to protect them from the ants and the termites. Other than that, all I own is within the scope of this screen, which you can see, including all of my clothing in the world. All of my possessions are in this little screen there. So I might not be on YouTube all of the time, but what is on YouTube all of the time is all of me and all I own and all that doesn't belong to me, but I'm responsible for, like this bowl you feed me with and these robes you provide for me and I wear. So, Anumodana, I rejoice with gratitude in your gratitude, with gratitude from me. Thank you for watching. Namo Buddhaya.